Yaoi Game entry, and again, the art style is beautiful. About the game: being one of the youngest vampire hunters, Lucian Lockhart didn't expect to encounter one of these bloodthirsty creatures in his lifetime. After all, vampires were on the brink of extinction, and no one had heard about a single apparition of them for more than 15 years. However, the opportunity unexpectedly appears, and Lucian finds himself face to face with the enemy he had only known from told stories and books. As if fighting a vampire for the first time wasn't astounding enough, Lucian also discovers one thing about his family's past that could tear apart everything he had believed to be true. Let's get started. I already really love that music. Ooh, pretty. Approximately 2 centuries ago, the first vampire attack on humans was reported. It is unclear when or where this species was born, but that first attack was the starting point of a time of terror and despair. Entire villages were decimated, and not a single survivor was left to be found. The enemy was fast, strong, and above all, immortal. For a long time, mankind found itself with no alternatives. There was no weapon that could protect them from the seemingly invulnerable creatures. There was no hiding place they couldn't find. This grim time had lasted until the moment when a certain human finally found what seemed to be the answers to everyone's prayers. Marcus Lockhart dedicated himself to the study of magic and supernatural forces, developing techniques that were able to neutralize and even exterminate the beings that, until then, were considered invincible. It wasn't long before Marcus became popularly I can't say that, known as the Vampire Hunter. His knowledge was passed on to other humans who shared the desire to protect their communities, thus giving rise to the group later called the Hunter's Circle. Before long, a war that seemed to be lost culminated in an unpredictable turnaround. One by one, vampires were exterminated, and the centuries of carnage finally came to an end. Although he has shared his main techniques with countless people, Marcus still retained many of his secrets, revealed only to his direct descendants through diaries passed down from generation to generation. In such a way, the hunters in the Lockhart lineage are recognized for being the most prominent of all, for they are the ones capable of creating unprecedented techniques from the writings of the original hunter. As time passed, vampires became increasingly scarce. For over 15 years, there has been no report of any attack by these creatures, and many believe that they had been driven to extinction. Still, the hunters remain attentive, determined to ensure that mankind will never go through these dark times again. Ooh. Wow, that was an opening for sure. I love opening sequences like that. The menu's really pretty too. Mr. Lockhart? Mr. Lockhart, can you hear me? Sorry, I got distracted. Oh no, back to accents again. Please forgive me. Having spent the last year living in a small village, I had forgotten how busy Swanford is. It's busy. The intense flow of people coming from all directions stuns me. I think it will take some time to get used to it again. I noticed. Well, we're in the heart of Swanford. From here, you can go anywhere in town. Oh, is he talking? Oh, he blinks too. Oh, we got some animations in here. Thank you very much for the ride. Please, take this token as my gratitude. Taking a small rectangular box out of my bag, I put it in the hands of the coachman who led me here. When he opens it, his eyes glow as he recognizes the 4 small bottles containing a purple, shining liquid. Oh, protective elixirs. Thank you very much, Mr. Lockhart. I really needed to buy some of these. You're welcome. Hunters produce a lot of these, so if you need more, you know where to find it. Even though vampires haven't shown up lately, it's not recommended to go too long without consuming an elixir. So does the elixir make you poisonous to them or invisible to them? Interesting. What does it do? Protection. That's true. You can't be careless. I'm glad the hunters are still working hard even in these times of peace. By the way, in case you need another ride back to Kileth, please know that I'll be here. It's the least I could do to repay you. Right, thanks again. As soon as the man returns to the carriage, the amusing smile I had been holding back finally shows on my face. I still can't get used to older people calling me Mr. Lockhart. I know it's a show of respect, but it makes me feel so awkward. Looking around, a rush of nostalgia hits me at Swanford's hectic atmosphere. It's been a while since I've been here, but my memories are still vivid. I used to run with my friends in the square and buy candy at the little bakery a few blocks from here. A few blocks from here. It was a happy time, and my biggest concern was to return home at the right time so I wouldn't get scolded. It was all so different from today. Taking a deep breath, I picked up my baggage and take my first step towards my destination, when someone suddenly bumps into me. Ow. Sorry. I only just got here and I'm already making a fool of myself. I swear I didn't see that guy before I bumped into him. Well, at least the impact was light and didn't make either of us fall, so the man simply continued on his way while I tried to put my posture back together. When I turned to see him, he's already far away, following his own path. The only thing I could distinguish was his long blonde hair, swaying lightly as he moved further and further away. It takes me a few seconds to get back to reality, remembering I have no time to waste. There's someone who has probably been waiting for me for a very long time. Ooh, that's very green. Oh, it looks like the Roman baths there. After a few minutes walking, I finally reach my destination. Standing in front of the house that I lived in during the end of my childhood and all my adolescence, I can't help feeling nostalgic. About a year ago, I left this place to return to the village where I was born, Kileth, to fulfill my parents' wish. Although I was still very young when they passed away, I knew it was their wish that I become the hunter in charge of protecting Kileth. It It's just a shame they couldn't be here to see it all come true. Feeling my eyes burning, I turned these thoughts away and walked towards the big wooden doors, giving 3 knocks to announce my arrival. After a few seconds, it finally opens up, revealing a person I was eager to see. Ooh. Lucian, at last you came. Hi, Nathaniel. I missed you. The man who took care of me during the last few years pulls me into a friendly hug. Something that until then I didn't know I missed so much. Seems like yesterday you moved. Ooh, that was loud. I confess that sometimes it still feels like you're here. I should have visited you more often, forgive me. I've been focusing a lot on my studies lately. Oh, I'm glad you're being responsible, Lucian. Despite the setbacks, I managed to raise a decent man after all. Oh, he is gorgeous, look at him. Oh, he's got a scar. I love Akane's art so much. Come on in. We've got a lot to talk about. As soon as my feet crossed the threshold, nostalgic memories of my previous years began to pop into my mind, bringing a smile to my lips. Tell me, how are things in Kaleth? Everything's as right as rain. You know, the usual calmness. Oh, that makes me feel better. But sometimes I worry about you living alone in that house. It can be pretty lonely. Well, I spend most of my time studying and practicing what I learn, so sometimes I even appreciate the silence. I'm glad you're so dedicated to your work, Lucian, but don't forget to enjoy your youth. Remember to set aside some time for fun, too. I see. I'll try to remember that. Actually, I didn't miss those things that much. The other guys my age in Kaleth used to drop everything to spend the nights in the taverns talking about their girlfriends, but that didn't really interest me much. As soon as we settled in the living room, Nathaniel sits down in the armchair and sighs, the sound full of a light fatigue. I can see from his frown that he's about to discuss the subject that brought me here. So, you must already know, if from the letter I sent you, I'm nearly certain there's a vampire wandering around the area. Hearing those words out loud for the first time, it was as if reality had finally hit me. 3 days ago, I received a letter from Nathaniel, telling me that some animals were found dead in the forest, without a single drop of blood in their bodies. Vampires usually only feed on humans, but they can quench their thirst with other sources if necessary. Maybe it was his attempt to stay hidden from our sight. Oopsies. My first accidental scroll. When did you notice the first signs? About 2 weeks ago. I wanted to wait a while to see if he'd leave on his own, but he's still here. Since he doesn't seem like a very aggressive vampire, I thought it would be a great way to put to the test what you've learned all these years. Hearing that, I nod in agreement, but the gesture doesn't carry much enthusiasm. Although I know this is my job, my family's job, I sincerely wish that this day would never come. Knowing all the techniques as well as I do, and knowing how to handle the weapons my ancestors created, facing a vampire for the first time, I can't help but feel insecure. What if everything I know still isn't enough? What if He wins. I know you must be apprehensive. I also felt that way when I was about to fight one of them for the first time. That's why I'm coming with you. If you need help, I'll be by your side. Thank you, Nathaniel. With you there, I think I can do it. I promised your father I'd take care of you. As long as I'm alive, I won't let any harm come to you. I smile, feeling a part of the weight on my chest fade away when I know I don't need to be alone in this. Since I'm not sure where he is yet, you may need to spend a few days around here until we find him. Is that okay to you? Oh sure, I'd love to. Spending more time in the house where I lived most of my life with the person who brought me the most pleasant memories for sure was a great idea. Great. Your room is still the way you left it. I asked Stefan, Stephen? Stephen. Stefan. Oh, see now I've played myself, I don't know. Not to move the things while we cleaned it. I'm gonna go with Stefan. Oh, it could be Stephen. It's very close to how my uncle spells his name, and he's a Stephen. Oh, Stefan is your butler, right? You mentioned him in some letters. Butler. Yeah, he's been keeping me company since you left. He's been a great help. I think you're tired from the trip, right? Come on. We'll take you to your room so you can get some rest. I have great plans tonight, so you better recover your energies. That sounds like a threat. I thought we'd focus on finding the vampire first. But that's part of the job. Since he could be anywhere, the only way to find him is by walking around town. Who knows if this vampire doesn't like to visit a tavern once in a while, huh? We might find him there. I start laughing. Oopsie. Number 2. Impressed by the kind of excuse Nathaniel makes to find a chance to go to the tavern. By the looks of it, he hasn't changed a bit. Okay, got it. So let's have a lively night tonight. Of course. My fellow hunters are usually there too. They'll love meeting you. I think you'll like them too. Yeah, maybe a change of scenery for at least one night would do me good. It wasn't the kind of thing I used to do, but didn't seem so bad either. As soon as we finish our conversation, Nathaniel guides me to my old room. These backgrounds are so nice. When he opens the door, the atmosphere in which I spent so many years of my life makes a wave of memories hit me again. Here you go. Please, make yourself at home. I'll always feel at home here. Very glad about that, Lucian. I know I can never replace your parents, and I don't want that. But after all these years, you've become like a son to me. How old is this man? It makes me so happy to know that you feel comfortable here. I'm very grateful for that, Nathaniel. I know it wouldn't have been easy, but you shaped me into who I am today. My parents would certainly be proud. Nathaniel smiles and nods, although his lips tremble a little in the process. Well, I'll be in the library if you need me. Feel free to rest as you want. With a slight tap on my shoulder, Nathaniel leaves me by myself, and I finally settle into my old room. The room is still exactly the same as when I lived here, but quite different from my room back in Kilurth. The house where my parents used to live, which is now my home, is just a small, comfortable cabin. Maybe that's why I don't mind living in it alone. On the other hand, living in this house that looks like a mansion wouldn't be too pleasant. I'm glad Nathaniel found Stepan to keep the loneliness at bay. I want to know what this butler looks like. I'm developing a ship. Organizing my belongings in the best way I could, I finally turned towards my old bed. The sheets that cover it seem so soft that I can barely control the urge to lie down immediately to take a nap. But with my clothes still dirty from the trip through the woods, I'd end up dirtying everything. I'd better take a bath first. In a definitely better state, I walk up to the bed and lie on it, feeling how the sheets seem to embrace my skin. God, it's so comfortable. Especially after spending the whole day traveling in a trepidatious carriage. Closing my eyes for a few seconds, the relief of finally resting hits me so hard that I find it difficult to open my eyes again. I don't think Nathaniel will mind if I take a brief nap. Lucian! Oh, come in. I quickly jump up from the bed into a sitting position. The sudden movement causes a slight dizziness that makes me put a hand on my forehead and shut my eyes again. Nathaniel opens the door, his eyebrows knit and a genuinely concerned expression plastered on his face. God, you scared me. I'm sorry. It's just that I was so exhausted from the trip, I ended up falling asleep. It's okay. Since you've regained your energy, it's time we went out for a bit. Already? Isn't it too early to go to the tavern? I instinctively looked towards the window, widening my eyes as I realized the sky was already dark and full of stars. How long have I been asleep? All afternoon. I didn't want to wake you up before because you looked tired, but I think after so many hours you should be feeling a little better now. I think so. Then let's go. I know you must be hungry, so I'll have them serve us the best roast on their menu. My stomach cheered up at the mention of a tasty meal, and then certainly gave me an extra inspiration for the ride. After spending a few minutes making my appearance presentable again, Nathaniel and I finally made our way to the tavern, which he said was not far from here. Oh, this music. I love that kind of bardy folklore kind of music. Listen to it, it's so good. As soon as we get there, the first thing I notice is the sound of people talking and laughing, as well as the lively music filling the room and wrapping it in an energetic atmosphere. The tavern isn't as full as I'd expected, which makes me more relieved. Being in an enclosed environment with so many people would be suffocating. As I scanned over the room, Nathaniel touches my arm lightly to get my attention. Look, they're here already. He points to two people sitting around a table, already drinking and talking. And these same people wave back at us as soon as they see us. Ooh, redheads! There are some very attractive people in this game. As we approach them, they both welcome us with nice smiles. The woman, however, is the one who seems the most enthusiastic between the two. So this is Lucian Lockhart. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. You too, miss. Rosemary, hunter in charge of protecting the northern Swanford area. After greeting Rosemary, I turned to the lad sitting next to her. I'm Damien, hunter in charge of the East Swanford area, and Rosemary's younger brother. Oh, he's younger. Are you both hunters? How extraordinary. Yeah, I decided to join the circle after my fool of a sister made this great decision. Damien, have some respect for your big sister. What my brother meant to say was that he felt inspired by my act of bravery and decided to do the same. That's not what I said. I love banter. It really takes a lot of bravery? It really takes a lot of bravery to get into the hunter circle. I'm glad to hear we have women joining us too. Me too. I like meeting brave women like that. Okay. I thought you had taken a break from women. Nathaniel widens his eyes as if he'd been caught by surprise, and his face gains a new layer of a reddish colour. I don't understand Rosemary's comment very well, so I look at him waiting for an answer, but that seems to make him even more baffled. It was just a joke, Rosemary. I see person number 2 on the Nathaniel and the butler train. Nathaniel's voice had a strange tone to it. Something was different. Rosemary glances towards him as he finishes talking, before glancing back at me and raising her eyebrows as if she had suddenly noticed something. Oh, how absent-minded of me. After that rather enigmatic conversation, Nathaniel and I sit down at the table and he gestures to the tavern owner to come to us. Tavern owner's a bit shady. In an instant, the middle-aged man approaches with a gentle smile on his face. Sir, please bring us that wonderful roasted ham and the best ale in the house to go with it. The owner of the tavern nods in agreement, but before he goes, he casts a hesitant look in my direction. Right. Is the boy here of age? He's already 19, despite his baby face. Hey! This lad here is none other than Lucian Lockhart. Oh. Marcus Lockhart's great-grandson? What an honor to have you in my tavern. Thanks. If your great-grandfather hadn't been a brave man and faced those terrible creatures, we would all be dead by now. We can't thank him enough. I'll make sure you won't pay for anything tonight. Everything will be on me. The 3 hunters around the table exclaim a lively celebration and Nathaniel pats me on the back, clearly excited. Oh, that's the real reason they wanted me to go. Thank you very much, sir. I will prepare your orders, and I'll bring them in a moment. As soon as the man walks away from us, I look at Nathaniel with a small amount of doubt. You didn't bring me here knowing he'd do that, right? Of course not. But that it was a great and fortunate surprise, this I can't deny. Just try not to exploit the poor man, okay? It's okay. You won't drink much, right? Rosemary and Damien agree quickly, which gives me a little more relief. I wasn't sure about the siblings, but Nathaniel doesn't usually take much until being hit by the effects of alcohol, becoming even more excited than usual. I'd hate to end up causing trouble for that gentle sir. Bye-bye tavern music. Oh, how they fooled me. Shortly after the owner of the tavern brought out our orders, the 3 hunters who accompanied me eagerly devoured everything while they talked. And of course, the ale wasn't left alone for even a second. I really wonder how their stomachs are able to store so much food. All looking a little bit sozzled there. Remember that time that cocky hunter from Willesden fell for the trap he set himself? That was the best day of my life. Oh, how could I forget? We left him in that hole on purpose for hours. Oh, that rude. He was a pain in the ass, but he was so handsome. If he kept his mouth shut all the time, I'd take him. Nathaniel and Damien exclaimed a sound of deep aversion to the idea, and Rosemary nearly fell over in laughter. Their voices were already altered by the alcohol, and their laughter had become exaggerated and loud, filling the entire place up. My face burned hot, but luckily almost everyone had left. If they hadn't, we'd surely be getting looks of reproach. The poor tavern owner sits at one of the tables with his chin resting on his hands, certainly regretting the proposal he made to us earlier. Seeing as I've only had a small glass of ale and I'm completely sober, all I could do now is set a limit on these responsible adults and stop them from embarrassing me any further. Who would have thought such a thing would happen? Don't you think it's already getting late? Nah. Oops. Hasn't even been an hour since we arrived. Actually, it's been 6 hours. 6 hours? No way. Damien looked around between his fallen eyelids, slowly nodding. I think it's true. We're the only ones here. So that's why this place suddenly went quiet. It wasn't all of a sudden. What happened is that you just came back to reality now. We had a lot of fun, but it's time to go home, right? The tavern owner deserves a rest too. As soon as I finish my sentence, I turn to look at him, and the poor man gives me a look of relief. Slowly and reluctantly, all the three hunters stand, slightly staggering. Rosemary holds her brother's shoulder firmly, but it's not as if he's reliable support. We'll pay for a carriage now to take us home. Right, Damien? I hope you brought enough money. I brought enough, I think. Whee! Deeply embarrassed by their behavior, I wouldn't be able to leave this place without paying for all of their mess. I walked over to the owner of the establishment, taking out coins from my pocket. Please accept this. I didn't know that they'd be so impetuous. No, it's okay. They're always the last to leave when they come here. I was aware that this could happen. I insist. I won't be able to sleep tonight if I haven't made up for at least some of this mess. The man laughed softly, finally accepting my coins. You're a good boy. You're such a good boy. You know, I got to meet your father. Really? Oh, yes. He was a very talented hunter. He and his wife were a great couple. It's a shame that... The man's voice gradually diminishes until he stops talking completely. A resolute expression on his face. He didn't have to complete the sentence for a slight feeling of tightness to form in my chest. Yeah, they were the best. The middle-aged man rests his hand on my shoulders, gently squeezing it. They'd be proud of... They'd be proud of you, I'm sure. I smile lightly, grateful for his words, but a loud laugh diverts my attention to the hunters who accompanied me. Lucian, help me get to the door. Oh my. It looks like it's going to be worse than I thought. The tavern owner laughs condescendingly. Condescendingly? Shaking his head. Nathaniel never changes. Looks like you're gonna have to work extra hard tonight. He took care of me for so long, but now it looks like it's the other way around. Thank you very much for your patience, and the food was very good. Please forgive us for the mess. It's okay. Good luck with your friends. With a brief nod, I say goodbye to the man and head over to Nathaniel's side, passing his arm over my shoulder and one of mine around his waist. Can you walk? Of course. I just don't know which way to go. I couldn't get mad at him even if I wanted to. My only reaction is to laugh while we carefully walk towards our home. Luckily, Rosemary and Damien soon found a carriage that would take them home, and Nathaniel didn't give me as much trouble as I expected. Oh! Yes, he's pretty. As soon as we arrived at his house, we were welcomed by Stefan. His expression of someone who had seen that scene happening over and over again. I had never seen him in person before, but he smiled gently at me before his gaze returned to the drunken man I basically carried in my arms. I'll take it from here. Stefan carefully takes Nathaniel from my arms and supports him in the same way I did before, shaking his head and sighing in disbelief. Any predictions on when you'll grow up, Nathaniel? I don't think I'll grow any bigger than this, my dear Stefan. By the way, I have a request for you. Stefan seems to freeze in his place as soon as he hears that, looking at me for a second before turning to Nathaniel again. What would that be? Can you stay with me? Oh, can you stay with me until I sleep, please? I want to stay with you. Oh, I love them. As soon as he finishes his sentence, Stefan's face goes an intense shade of red. He looks at me awkwardly before glancing away, as if worried about my reaction. Fine. Thank you. Drunk Nathaniel's adorable. Nathaniel rests his head slyly on Stefan's shoulder while smiling, and I can't help smiling too. Does he always do that? Although he's still slightly embarrassed, Stefan smiles, and the affectionate tone he uses surprises me. Sometimes. I need to get him to his room before he falls asleep on his feet, if you'll excuse me. Of course. Watching Stefan do his best to guide Nathaniel without stumbling, I can't stop thinking about what just happened. Is it really what I was thinking? Oh, definitely. I'll ask Nathaniel about it tomorrow. That's if he remembers all that, of course. Yes, it's definitely what you're thinking. What the hunter lady was thinking too. Back in my room, many long minutes have passed since I laid down in my bed, but I still can't sleep. Maybe I overslept in the afternoon. Despite having a more hectic night than usual, I don't feel tired enough. Getting up from bed, I open the bedroom door and walk down the hall towards Nathaniel's library. Ooh, Wow, this is a fancy house. I remember when I still lived here and felt insomnia, light reading always helped me. Nathaniel had so many books of all different kinds. Maybe I could find some to help me relax. As soon as I reach the double doors of the library, my movements are interrupted by the unexpected sounds of steps coming from inside. But Nathaniel was asleep. So was Stefan. There shouldn't be anyone but the three of us in this house. The steps pause for a moment, but soon I hear something that sounds as if someone was leafing through a book quickly. There's definitely an intruder here. But how could anyone have been in the library, which was on the second floor of the house, without having passed through the front door? It was humanly impossible to enter through the windows as high up as ours. Unless the person who was there wasn't a human. My heart pounds in my chest as I think of the possibilities that the vampire Nathaniel mentioned was here, a few feet from me. Just a door separating us. I can feel a cold sweat on my hands and I bite my lip to avoid making any sound that could announce my presence while I quickly think about what I should do. Enter the library, or call Nathaniel. Put your training to good use. We're gonna enter the library. If I call Nathaniel to check with me, it could be that whatever's in the library runs away before we get back. Not to mention, he must still be feeling the effects of the alcohol. Taking a deep breath, I use both hands to open the library doors at once, coming face to face with the intruder. The instant the doors opened, we both remained inert and unable to move a muscle. His face looking as surprised as mine must have looked. A book lay open in his hands and many others were scattered around on the floor, as if he had flicked through them without finding what he was looking for. When our eyes finally met, I felt as if my heart had missed a beat. Those blood-colored, terrifying eyes, they were the main feature that announced what he really was. For a few seconds I remained watching him, paralyzed by the situation I was in. I've never seen a vampire before, and now there was one steps away from me. That froze my body completely, froze my limbs completely. When I finally managed to wake up from the trance, it takes me a few seconds before I find my voice again. What are you? But before I could finish the sentence, the giant vampire drops the book that was in his hands and he runs towards the window, leaping into the darkness of the night. I try to run after him, but when I get to the ledge, my body freezes before the sudden drop. At least 8 meters are between me and the lawn down there. Vampire, in turn, ran further and further through the garden, his long blonde hair reflecting the light in the moon as he moved away. Before that scene, I finally realized I'd met that man before. He was the person I had bumped into as soon as I arrived in Swanford. I can't believe the first person I meet here was the vampire I was looking for. In a few seconds, he disappeared completely from my field of vision, mixing with the darkness of the night. What happened? I turn around after hearing Stefan's jittery voice to find him standing near the door with Nathaniel right at his side. We heard your voice. Was there someone else here? The vampire was here. Vampire? Are you alright? Yeah, he ran away before I could do anything. I came here to find something to read and ended up meeting him. He was looking through the books and he made this mess. My words flowed awkwardly because of my nervousness, and I gestured towards the books on the floor, trying to make them understand. Stefan slowly approaches one of the bookshelves to organize the books that were almost falling from their places. What could he possibly want with these books? Nathaniel bends down to pick up one of the copies that was on the floor, analyzing it carefully. Then he takes another one and does the same. They're all different. Maybe he was looking for something specific? But there's no way to know. Does he have the journals? The hunter's journals, maybe? Looking for something that can give him immunity to whatever they use against him? Maybe? The three of us start taking the books on the floor and putting them back on the shelves. Even though there aren't that many, we spend a good few minutes on the task. While I was helping them, I remember the fact they were still together at that time of night. Although I didn't see them leaving the same room, Stefan appeared at the same instant as Nathaniel, which indicated that he wouldn't have come from his own room on the ground floor. Although I had been suspicious ever since I saw their interactions earlier, the fact that they might actually be a couple still caught me by surprise. Back when I lived here, Nathaniel used to date women. However, more than a year has passed since Stefan entered his life right after I left. A lot could have happened during that time. As soon as we finished tidying up all the books, Nathaniel puts his hands on his waist and sighs heavily. I don't think he took anything. All the books are here. Stefan, in turn, walks towards the window and closes it, checking the locks immediately afterwards. I guess I forgot to lock the windows. I'm sorry. Nathaniel nods, but an awkward silence soon follows. After the tension had subsided, it was as if they had finally noticed that I had witnessed many things this night. I didn't want them to have to hide because of me, or pretend there was nothing going on. It seemed unfair. Nathaniel, I noticed that you and Stefan, you like each other. And that's fine with me. For real. Nathaniel's lips parted as if he wanted to say something, but instead they formed a relieved smile on his face. I wish I'd told you before, but I didn't know how you'd react. What matters to me is that you're happy. If Stefan is the person who makes you feel that way, then I couldn't be against it. I don't know you very well yet, Stefan, but Nathaniel always mentioned you in letters he wrote to me. In a sense, I always knew that you were someone special to him. A timid smile came across Stefan's lips. I think his name different every time. Before he looked at Nathaniel with tenderness. You never told me you mentioned me in the letters. A couple of times. I wanted Lucian to know I wasn't feeling lonely after he moved out, and I really wanted to talk about you, so... When Stefan's smile grows even bigger, Nathaniel seems to get even more embarrassed. Well, we've been here a long time, and now it's time to go back to sleep. Tomorrow we'll talk more about all of this. Understood. Good night. To both of you. Nathaniel nods when Stefan joins him and they say goodbye to me, leaving the library. I can't help smiling at how happy they seem to be with each other's presence. Apparently, Nathaniel was in good company while I was away. By myself again, the first signs of tiredness finally appeared, making me yawn. All the commotion must have added to my exhaustion. However, when I returned to my room, a pale object resting on the carpet at the foot of the table catches my attention. Walking up to it, I bent down and picked up a piece of paper the size of a book sheet. Although one part seemed to have been torn, there's something written on it with elegant handwriting I don't recognize. That he's crossed every line. I found out why he modified the sword. Why he modified the sword he uses, and it's much grimmer than I imagined. I still can't believe he's doing this for so long without me noticing. He's getting more and more ruthless, so I beg you, Victoria, find a place where you and Nicola can be safe. I'll join you as soon as I can. I want to find out more details about what Marcus intends to do with the hearts he has extracted, as well as where he keeps them. Marcus still seems to trust me, so I'll use that to my advantage. In no way can I allow him to use them for his own benefit. Forgive me for not returning to you immediately, but I feel this is my only chance. I haven't been able to protect our kind, but I can at least save the legacy of our brothers. I love you, Victoria, and I need you to stay safe for me. We'll meet again soon, I promise. With all my love, Thomas. Finishing reading what seemed to have been an excerpt from a diary, my hands start shaking uncontrollably. What is the meaning of this? The letter seemed to have been written by a vampire, but how could he talk about Marcus Lockhart as if he knew him? Such a thing could never have happened. Well, I tried to convince myself that the letter has nothing but was nothing but a distasteful joke. My eyes are fixated on the lines that mention the hearts. I read and reread them countless times, seeking an interpretation in which they were merely a coincidence. Apparently I can't say anything longer than a 4-letter word. There was no way a vampire could have known that. That was a secret only the Lockharts knew. That had never been leaked. But while I did not want to believe it, I knew that those words were too exact to be a coincidence. However, if it's true, why is there nothing in Marcus's journal about him meeting a vampire? If they were so close, why is there no mention of him whatsoever? The more I searched for the meaning of those words, the more confused my mind became. The fatigue after such a hectic day didn't help much either. Maybe I should take a closer look at it tomorrow morning. Folding the letter before I put it in my pocket, I shudder at the window through which the vampire escaped a few minutes ago. The problem that seemed simple at first was proving to be much more complex than I imagined. Oh no! Oh, okay. So my immediate reaction there is, what is the lore behind the vampires? Blondie was in the sun. So I'm really interested to hear in how exactly the vampires within this world operate. I love vampires, and there's so much lore between them. Everything has a different kind of vampires, different lore behind it. What's the secrets? What are the hearts? What do the hearts do? Obviously they seem to be vampire hearts, but what purpose do they serve? What is this Marcus up to? What will Nathaniel do when he finds out? I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the rest of this game. It looks really nice. Art is beautiful. I'm already really into the story. I think everyone should check it out. Download it for yourself. Play it. Buy it when it comes out. As usual, all the links to find the developer and the game will be in the description. And I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Bye!